Dr. Una Park stood before the massive crystal doors of the council chamber, her hands shaking slightly as she held the datapad containing humanity's greatest discovery. Behind her, the towering spires of the Confederation capital stretched into the alien sky, their surfaces gleaming with the light of 3 different suns. She had dreamed of this moment for years. The doors opened with a sound like singing glass, and Una walked into the vast chamber where the Council of 12 waited. Each member represented one of the galaxy's most powerful species, sitting on platforms that floated high above the floor. Their forms were alien and intimidating, some made of living crystal, others pure energy, and a few that hurt to look at directly. Human scientist, spoke the Vorthak representative, its crystalline body pulsing with blue light. You claim to have made a discovery of great importance. Speak quickly. Una took a deep breath and activated her presentation. Holographic displays filled the air around her, showing complex equations and diagrams. Honored council members, humanity has developed quantum consciousness transfer technology. This allows instant communication across any distance in the galaxy, without delay or interference. The chamber fell silent. Several council members leaned forward on their floating platforms. The Kelhari representative, a being of pure golden energy, began to glow brighter. Explain how this works, it demanded. We discovered that consciousness itself exists partly outside normal space, Una explained, her voice growing stronger with confidence. By creating a quantum bridge between minds, we can transmit thoughts, data, and even complex instructions instantly across the galaxy. No more waiting months for messages to travel between star systems. She demonstrated the technology, connecting her mind to a research station on the other side of the galaxy. In real time, she received updates from her team and transmitted new instructions. The response was immediate, proving that distance meant nothing to her invention. The council members began speaking among themselves in languages that sounded like grinding metal and electronic screeches. Una waited, expecting praise and recognition. Humanity had served the Confederation for 200 years, always as the junior partner. They built the ships, fought the wars, and solved the problems that other species considered beneath them. This discovery would finally prove that humans deserved respect. Commander Hansol Kim watched the presentation from the observation deck above the council chamber. As the leader of the Terra Defense Fleet, he had seen humanity's contributions to the Confederation firsthand. Human soldiers had died in wars for alien causes. Human engineers had built wonders that other species took credit for. Human scientists had made breakthrough after breakthrough, only to see the benefits flow to their alien masters. The quantum consciousness technology was different. It was purely human innovation, something no other species had even imagined. Hansol believed this would change everything for his people. Admiral Jin Wu Li stood beside him, his weathered face showing decades of service to alien commanders. As the highest-ranking human in Confederation military history, he had fought for recognition and respect his entire career. "This is our moment," he whispered to Hansol. "They have to acknowledge us now." Down in the chamber, the council finished their discussion. The Vorthak representative spoke first. "This technology is indeed impressive. However, the council has concerns about its implications." Una frowned. "What concerns?" "This could revolutionize communication across the galaxy. Trade, diplomacy, scientific research. Everything could benefit." "That is precisely the problem," said the Kelhari representative, its golden form pulsing with agitation. "Your species has developed something that could disrupt the natural order of galactic civilization. The Vorthak have maintained communication networks for millennia. Your technology threatens this stability." "But surely progress is good," Una protested. "This could help everyone." "Silence," commanded the Threnody representative, a creature that looked like a living shadow. "The Council has made its decision. Humanity has overstepped its bounds. You were given a place in the Confederation as laborers and soldiers, not as innovators who threaten established systems." The chamber's atmosphere changed. The floating platforms began to glow with ominous light, and the temperature dropped noticeably. Una realized with growing horror that this was not going to end as she had hoped. The Vorthak representative continued speaking, its voice echoing through the crystal chamber. "The Council hereby invokes Species Quarantine Protocol 7. Humanity is declared a threat to galactic stability and is ordered to remove itself from all Confederation space within 72 standard hours." Quarantine Protocol 7, Una gasped. That's complete exile. You're banishing us from the entire galaxy. Not the entire galaxy, corrected the Kelhari representative with what might have been cruel amusement. You may settle in the empty quarter, beyond the galactic rim. There you can develop your dangerous technologies without threatening civilized space. Han Sol felt his blood turn to ice as he watched the scene below. The empty quarter was a death sentence. No habitable worlds, ancient automated defenses, and quantum storms that destroyed anything larger than a probe. The Confederation was essentially ordering humanity to die slowly in the void. Admiral Jinwoo Lee activated his communication device with trembling fingers. All human fleets, this is Admiral Lee. Emergency evacuation protocol is now in effect. We have 72 hours to evacuate all human populations from Confederation space. Across the galaxy, the evacuation began immediately. On hundreds of worlds, human colonies received the devastating news. Space stations that had been humanity's homes for generations prepared for abandonment. The Terra Defense Fleet, once proud protectors of human interests, became a desperate rescue operation. The Confederation wasted no time in enforcing their decree. Alien fleets appeared at human settlements, their weapons powered and ready. Some human colonies tried to negotiate, pleading for more time or mercy. The alien response was swift and merciless. Any settlement that resisted was destroyed without warning. Han Sol commanded the evacuation fleet, watching in anguish as his people abandoned everything they had built. Families crowded onto transport ships with only what they could carry. Scientists destroyed their research rather than let it fall into alien hands. Soldiers who had fought for the Confederation just days before now fled from their former allies. The final evacuation came at the human homeworld of New Terra, humanity's capital in Confederation space. Admiral Jinwoo Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship as the last transport ships lifted off from the planet's surface. 2 centuries of human civilization in the galaxy were ending in disgrace and exile. Dr. Una Park was among the last to leave, her quantum consciousness technology destroyed to prevent the aliens from stealing it. As her ship jumped to hyperspace, she watched the Confederation fleets take position around abandoned human worlds, already beginning to strip them for resources. The human fleet jumped toward the empty quarter, toward a region of space that promised only death and darkness. Behind them, the galaxy they had helped build and defend continued without them, as if humanity had never existed at all. As the ships traveled through the void between stars, Han Sol broadcast a message to all human vessels. We go into exile, but we go together. Whatever awaits us in the darkness, we will face it as one people. The aliens think they have destroyed us, but they have only freed us from serving masters who never deserved our loyalty. The great betrayal was complete, but humanity's story was far from over. 50 years had passed since the exile, and Captain Sojin Choi had never seen a real planet. Born on a generation ship in the empty quarter, she had grown up among the stars, watching her people struggle to survive in the hostile void beyond the galaxy's edge. The empty quarter was a graveyard. Ancient automated defense systems drifted through space like sleeping giants, attacking anything that came too close. Quantum storms swept through the region without warning, tearing apart ships and stations with impossible energies. What few asteroids existed held no useful minerals, and the nearest star was a dying red dwarf that barely provided enough energy to keep the human fleet alive. So Jin stood on the bridge of the Resilience, the largest surviving human vessel, looking out at the scattered lights of her people's fleet. What had once been hundreds of ships carrying billions of humans had dwindled to maybe 50 vessels housing 12 billion survivors. Disease, accidents, and despair had taken their toll over 5 decades of wandering in the dark. "Captain," called engineer Minho Kang from his station, "I'm getting those strange readings again from the defense grid." Minho was thin and pale like most humans born in space, but his mind was sharp as any blade. For years he had been studying the ancient machines that patrolled the empty quarter, trying to understand their purpose. Most people thought he was wasting his time, but Sojin had learned to trust his instincts. "Show me," she said, moving to his workstation. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding space, dotted with thousands of small objects. These were the defense systems, geometric shapes made of unknown metal that had been drifting through the void for millions of years. They attacked any ship that came too close, but they seemed to follow patterns that no one could understand. "Look at this," Minho said, pointing to clusters of the devices. They're not randomly placed. There's a structure here, a design. It's like they're protecting something, but I can't figure out what. Commander Yuri Nam joined them at the station. She was older than So-Jin, one of the few people who remembered life before the exile. As head of the human resistance movement, she had spent years planning for the day humanity would return to claim their place in the galaxy. Maybe they're protecting themselves, Yuri suggested. Ancient weapons left over from some forgotten war. No, Minho shook his head. I've been monitoring their communication signals. They're not weapons, they're guardians. They're protecting something vast, something that spans this entire region of space. So-Jin studied the display more carefully. The empty quarter covered millions of cubic light-years, an enormous region that the Confederation had always avoided. If Minho was right, if there was some kind of structure hidden here, it would be larger than anything in known space. What kind of structure could be that big? She asked. I don't know, Minho admitted, but I think I might have found a way to ask. He pulled up another display, this one showing complex waveforms and energy patterns. I've been analyzing the quantum signatures from these defense systems. They operate on principles similar to Dr. Park's consciousness transfer technology. So-Jin felt her heart skip a beat. Dr. Yuna Park had died 20 years ago, her revolutionary technology lost with her. The quantum consciousness transfer that had led to humanity's exile was considered too dangerous to rebuild, too risky to experiment with in their desperate situation. You're talking about consciousness transfer, Yuri said quietly. That technology is forbidden. The council banned any research into it after 3 scientists went insane trying to recreate Park's work. I know the risks, Minho said, but think about what this could mean. If these ancient systems use similar technology, maybe I can communicate with them. Maybe I can find out what they're protecting. So-Jin considered the proposal carefully. Her people were dying slowly, trapped in a region of space that offered no hope for the future. Every day brought new challenges. Failing life support systems, dwindling food supplies, children born with genetic defects from cosmic radiation. They needed something to change their situation, even if it meant taking enormous risks. Do it, she decided, but carefully. If you start showing signs of mental breakdown, we stop immediately. Over the following weeks, Minho worked in secret, building a crude version of the consciousness transfer device. He used salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity, creating something that would have horrified Dr. Park with its primitive construction. But it worked. The first contact with the ancient systems was brief and confusing. Minho described it as touching a vast, sleeping mind that had been dreaming for millions of years. The defense systems responded to his presence, their attack patterns changing slightly, becoming less aggressive toward human ships. They recognize us, Minho reported after his 3rd contact session. Not as humans specifically, but as conscious beings capable of quantum communication. They've been waiting for someone like us. Waiting for what? So-Jin asked. To inherit, Minho said, his eyes wide with amazement. Captain, these aren't just defense systems. They're the guardians of something called the Architect Network. An ancient civilization built something here, something incredible, and then they disappeared. The Guardians have been protecting it ever since, waiting for a species advanced enough to understand it. Yuri leaned forward. What kind of civilization? They called themselves the Architects, Minho explained. From what I can understand, they transcended physical existence millions of years ago. But before they left, they built a network of technologies that could reshape reality itself. Dimensional manipulation, matter conversion, space folding, technologies that make Confederation science look like stone tools. The revelation changed everything. So-Jin called a meeting of all the fleet captains, sharing Minho's discoveries with the desperate survivors of humanity's exile. The empty quarter wasn't a prison. It was a treasure vault, filled with technologies beyond imagination. The architects left instructions, Minho continued. Blueprints for rebuilding their network, for accessing their technologies. But it requires quantum consciousness transfer to understand. That's why the Guardians recognized us. We're the first species to develop that capability since the architects themselves. Captain Taman Park of the science vessel Discovery raised his hand. What's the catch? Technologies like this don't come without a price. The price is evolution, Minho replied. The architects didn't just build machines, they built a path to transcendence. Using their technology changes you. advances you beyond normal physical limitations. We wouldn't just be surviving in the empty quarter, we'd be becoming something new. So-Jin felt the weight of decision on her shoulders. Her people were dying in conventional space, trapped by conventional thinking. The architects offered a different path, but one that would transform humanity into something unknown. "We vote," she announced. "Every ship, every crew. Do we stay as we are and slowly die, or do we take the architect path and become something else?" The vote took 3 days. Ship by ship, crew by crew, humanity made their choice. Some chose to continue wandering, hoping to find conventional solutions to their problems. But most chose evolution. So-Jin stood again on the bridge of the resilience, watching as Minho prepared for the deepest contact yet with the architect systems. This time he wouldn't just communicate, he would download the complete blueprints for architect technology. "Are you ready?" she asked. Minho nodded, placing the crude consciousness transfer device on his head. "If this works, everything changes. We won't be refugees anymore. We'll be inheritors." The transfer began, and Minho's consciousness reached out across space to touch the vast sleeping network of architect technology. Information flooded his mind. Plans for dimensional engines, blueprints for pocket universes, instructions for matter converters that could turn empty space into habitable worlds. When he opened his eyes hours later, Minho was smiling for the first time in years. "I know how to build paradise," he whispered. The transformation of humanity had begun. In the darkness of the empty quarter, using technologies left by beings who had transcended physical existence itself, humanity would build something the galaxy had never seen. The aliens who had exiled them thought they had condemned humanity to death. Instead, they had given them the keys to godhood. Emperor Taehyun Song stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Palace, looking out at a sight that would have driven his ancestors mad with wonder. Where once there had been empty space, now a dozen artificial suns burned in perfect formation, their light-warming worlds that had been built from pure energy and human will. A century had passed since Minho Kang first touched the architect network. In that time, humanity had transformed from desperate refugees into masters of dimensional technology. The empty quarter was no longer empty. It was the heart of an empire that existed in folded space, invisible to the outside galaxy. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Myung Bae as she approached. Her uniform bore no resemblance to the old Confederation styles. Instead, it seemed to shift and flow like liquid light, made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The latest reports from our deep space observers. Tae-hyun accepted the datapad, though he could have simply absorbed the information directly through the quantum consciousness network that connected all humans in the Empire. Old habits died hard, and he liked the physical feel of important documents. The reports painted a picture of slow decline in Confederation space. Without human innovation and labor, the great alien civilization was stagnating. The Vorthak communication networks were failing as their crystal matrices aged without human engineers to maintain them. The Kelhari energy reserves were mysteriously dropping, their proud golden forms growing dimmer with each passing year. "They have no idea we're still here," Mi Young observed. "As far as they know, humanity died in the empty quarter decades ago." Taehyun smiled. That was exactly what they wanted the aliens to think. While the Confederation believed humanity was extinct, humans had been building an empire that spanned multiple dimensions. Using architect technology, they had learned to create pocket universes, artificial realities that existed alongside normal space but remained completely undetectable. The human population had exploded to over 200 billion, all living in space that didn't technically exist according to conventional physics. Entire worlds had been crafted from raw energy, their gravity and atmosphere maintained by technology that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. "Bring me Dr. Do-Yoon Jang," Tae-hyun commanded. "I want to know how the Harvest Project is progressing." Dr. Do-Yoon Jang arrived within minutes, his appearance marking him as one of the new generation of humans. Born and raised with architect technology, he was taller and more graceful than baseline humans, his eyes showing flecks of silver that indicated direct neural interface with dimensional computers. "Your Majesty," Do-Yoon said with a slight bow, "the harvest continues ahead of schedule. We're extracting approximately 12% of the dark energy from Confederation space each year, channeling it through dimensional portals to fuel our expansion." Tae-hyun nodded with satisfaction. The harvest was humanity's greatest secret weapon. Using architect technology, they had learned to tap directly into the dark energy that filled all space, drawing power from the very fabric of reality. More importantly, they had discovered that this energy could be harvested from anywhere in the galaxy through dimensional manipulation. For 50 years, humanity had been quietly draining energy from Confederation space, accelerating the alien civilization's decline while fueling their own impossible growth. The aliens had no idea that their technology was failing because humans were literally stealing the power that made it work. "What about the Reality Anchor project?" Tae-hyun asked. Do-yoon's silver-flecked eyes gleamed with excitement. "Complete success, Your Majesty. We can now create localized zones where the fundamental constants of physics operate according to our specifications. Within these zones, our technology functions at impossible efficiency, while alien technology simply stops working." This was the breakthrough that would change everything. The architects had learned not just to manipulate matter and energy, but to rewrite the basic rules of reality itself. Humans could now create areas of space where their advanced technology worked perfectly, while Confederation technology became useless metal and crystal. "Excellent," Tae-hyun said. "Begin Phase 3. It's time to announce ourselves to our former masters." Admiral Mi-young-bae activated her communication implant, sending orders across the dimensional network to human fleets stationed throughout the galaxy. These ships had been hiding in folded space for decades, watching and waiting for this moment. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Human fleets would emerge simultaneously around every major Confederation world, their dimensional engines allowing them to bypass all defenses undetected. The aliens would wake up to find their entire civilization surrounded by ships they couldn't see coming and couldn't understand. "Are you certain this is wise?" Do-yoon asked quietly. "We could remain hidden forever, growing stronger while they grow weaker. Eventually they would collapse without our intervention." Tae-hyun considered the question. The old humanity might have chosen revenge, might have been content to watch their former oppressors slowly die, but the new humanity, shaped by architect technology and dimensional perspective, had evolved beyond petty vengeance. "We're not doing this for revenge," he explained. "We're doing it because the galaxy needs proper management. The Confederation has proven they can't govern wisely. It's time for a better system." The signal went out across the dimensional network, and human fleets began emerging from folded space around dozens of worlds. On the Confederation capital, ancient crystal spires suddenly found themselves surrounded by ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, their hulls shifting between solid matter and pure energy. The alien governments panicked. Their sensors couldn't properly detect the human ships, which appeared and disappeared according to rules that made no sense. Emergency fleets were dispatched, only to find that their weapons passed harmlessly through vessels that existed in slightly different dimensional phases. On the bridge of the dimensional dreadnought Transcendence, Admiral Mi-young-bae opened a communication channel to the Confederation Council. The same crystal chamber where humanity had been condemned to exile a century and a half ago was now surrounded by technologies beyond alien comprehension. "Greetings, Council of 12, Mi-young said, her voice carrying across space through quantum consciousness networks. "Or should I say Council of 9, since 3 of your member species have collapsed from resource depletion." The surviving alien leaders looked up at the human fleet in horror and disbelief. The Vorthak representative's crystal form flickered with unstable light. "Impossible. Humanity was exiled. You died in the empty quarter." "We were exiled," Mi-young agreed. "But we didn't die. We evolved. The empty quarter wasn't a prison. It was a gift. You sent us to the one place in the galaxy where we could inherit technologies beyond your comprehension." Emperor Tae-hyun's image appeared in the council chamber, projected through dimensional manipulation that made him seem to exist in the room itself. He was clearly human, but changed, taller, more graceful, his eyes showing the silver flecks that marked neural interface with architect systems. "You have a choice," Tae-hyun said calmly. "You can accept humanity as the new leaders of galactic civilization, benefiting from technologies that will solve your resource problems and expand your capabilities beyond imagination. Or you can resist and discover what happens when species try to fight beings who can rewrite the laws of physics." The Kelhari representative, its golden energy form now noticeably dimmer than in the past, pulsed with anger. We will not bow to our former slaves. Then let me demonstrate why you should reconsider, Taehyun replied. He gestured and space itself began to change around the Confederation capital. Reality rippled like water, and suddenly a dead solar system on the edge of the galaxy began to transform. Planets shifted in their orbits, their surfaces rewriting themselves from barren rock into garden worlds. A new star ignited in the center of the system, providing perfect light and warmth for the transformed worlds. The entire process took less than an hour, reshaping an entire solar system as casually as a gardener planting flowers. We don't need to destroy you, Taehyun explained to the shocked alien leaders. We can simply make your technology obsolete by changing the rules of reality around you. Your weapons won't work in our reality zones. Your ships won't fly. Your communication networks will fall silent. The demonstration had the desired effect. Several alien species immediately began requesting terms for surrender. Others, led by the stubborn Kelhari, prepared for war against an enemy they couldn't understand. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, but not as the desperate refugees who had been exiled so long ago. They had returned as masters of forces that the aliens couldn't comprehend, offering partnership to those wise enough to accept it and irrelevance to those too proud to adapt. The galaxy was about to change forever. Diplomatic Commander Heejin Lim materialized inside the Confederation Council chamber, her form shifting from dimensional energy back into solid matter. The alien leaders flinched as she appeared, their primitive understanding of physics unable to comprehend how humans could now teleport across space without ships or technology. The Council of Nine sat on their floating platforms, but their once mighty presence had diminished greatly. The Vorthak representative's crystal body showed cracks and dim sections where power had failed. The Kelhari delegate barely glowed with golden energy, its form flickering like a dying flame. Other species showed similar signs of decline. Honored Council, Heejin said with mock formality. Humanity has come to discuss terms. The Threnody representative, its shadow form barely visible now, spoke first. What terms? You surround our worlds with incomprehensible ships and demand our surrender. This is conquest, not diplomacy. Heejin smiled, her enhanced features showing the calm confidence of someone backed by unlimited power. Not conquest, evolution. The galaxy has stagnated under your rule for millennia. Species rise to a certain level and then stop growing. Content to maintain the status quo. Humanity offers something different. She gestured and holographic displays filled the chamber, showing the transformed regions of space where humans had established their dimensional empire. Worlds that shouldn't exist spun around artificial stars. Impossible cities floated in the void, their architecture defying gravity and conventional engineering. We offer partnership in transcendence, Heijin continued. Join us and your species will grow beyond its current limitations. The Novari have already accepted our offer. Would you like to see what they've become? The display changed to show the Novari home system. Once a struggling species barely capable of interstellar travel, they had been transformed by human technology. Their bodies now existed as pure energy like the Kelhari had always dreamed, but powered by dimensional forces that made them effectively immortal. You've corrupted them, snarled the Kelhari representative. Turned them into abominations. We've freed them, Hyejin corrected. They chose evolution over stagnation, just as other species are choosing now. Fleet Admiral Dongwook Shin spoke from his flagship in orbit above the capital world. His voice carried through quantum consciousness networks directly into the minds of every being in the chamber. 17 species have already joined the new order. They understand that resistance is pointless. The Admiral's words were backed by an impressive display of force. Human fleets had emerged from dimensional space around every major Confederation world simultaneously, demonstrating capabilities that bordered on magic, ships that existed in multiple dimensions, weapons that could rewrite matter at the quantum level, and defenses that made attacks simply cease to exist. Chancellor Subin Yu appeared as a dimensional projection beside Heejin. As head of the Human Colonial Authority, she was responsible for integrating new species into the growing human empire. We're not here to destroy the Confederation, she explained. We're here to improve it. Improve it by making yourselves the masters, accused the Vorthak representative, its cracked crystal form sparking with dying energy. By making everyone the masters, Subin replied. The old system was based on hierarchy. Some species ruled while others served. Our system is based on capability and contribution. Every species that joins us gains access to technologies that will transform their existence. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from Admiral Dong-wook. We have a problem. The Kelhari are mobilizing their reserve fleets. They're bringing up weapons from their deep storage. Heejin frowned. The Kelhari had always been the most aggressive members of the Council, their pride preventing them from accepting any solution that didn't leave them in charge. Intelligence reports suggested they had been developing secret weapons for millennia, preparing for a war they believed they would eventually need to fight. What kind of weapons? She asked. Ancient ones, Dong-wook replied grimly. Technologies they've kept hidden since before they joined the Confederation. Starkillers, reality bombs, things that could threaten entire systems. The Kelhari representative began to glow brighter, its golden form pulsing with renewed energy. You think your dimensional tricks make you invincible? We have weapons that predate your species, technologies that could unmake this entire region of space. Emperor Taehyun's voice resonated through the quantum network, reaching every human ship and every dimensional outpost simultaneously. Let them come. It's time to show the galaxy what we've really become. The Kelhari fleet emerged from deep space like golden fire, hundreds of ships that gleamed with energy weapons and reality-warping devices. Their vessels were works of art as much as weapons, elegant forms that seemed to dance through space as they moved to attack positions. Admiral Dong-wook welcomed the challenge. The human fleet had been designed for exactly this kind of confrontation. Warfare against enemies who didn't understand the rules they were playing by. All ships implement reality anchor protocols. Let's show them how physics really works. Space around the Confederation capital began to change. The fundamental constants that governed matter and energy shifted, creating zones where human technology operated at impossible efficiency while alien systems simply failed. The Kelhari ships found their weapons powering down, their engines stuttering as the rules they had been built to exploit no longer applied. Impossible, gasped the Kelhari representative as reports came in from their fleet. You can't just change the laws of physics. We're not changing them, Heejin explained calmly. We're defining them. The architects taught us that reality is more flexible than most species realize. Within our influence zones, we decide how the universe works. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Kelhari ships that had been unstoppable forces of destruction found themselves helpless as their ancient weapons failed to function. Human vessels phased in and out of multiple dimensions, attacking from angles that didn't exist in normal space. But the humans weren't trying to destroy the Kelhari fleet. Instead, they demonstrated their superiority by disabling enemy ships without causing casualties, using technology that simply made hostile actions impossible, rather than punishing them with destruction. One by one, Kelhari vessels found themselves trapped in dimensional fields that prevented them from moving or firing. Their crews were unharmed but completely helpless, floating in space like moths caught in amber. This is your last chance, Admiral Dong-wook announced to the remaining alien fleets. Surrender now and join us in building something better. Continue fighting and watch your technology become obsolete. The demonstration had its intended effect. The remaining Confederation species realized they were facing an enemy that had moved beyond conventional warfare entirely. Human technology didn't just win battles, it made the concept of resistance meaningless. One by one, alien fleets began standing down. Species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years found themselves bowing to humans, who had been exiled as primitives barely 2 centuries before. In the council chamber, Heejin watched as the alien leaders accepted the inevitable. The Confederation is dead, she announced. Long live the architect conquered. Chancellor Subin smiled as she began implementing the integration protocols. Species that accepted human leadership would find themselves elevated beyond their wildest dreams. Those that refused would simply be left behind as the galaxy moved forward without them. The reckoning was complete. Humanity had returned to claim their place in galactic civilization, but not as members of someone else's system. They had returned as the architects of something entirely new, offering partnership to those wise enough to accept it and irrelevance to those too proud to evolve. The old order was ending, and a new age of transcendence was beginning. Chancellor Jineko stood in the center of the cosmic assembly, watching as representatives from 300 different species debated the future of galactic civilization. 10 years had passed since the reckoning, and the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The assembly hall itself was a marvel of human engineering, existing simultaneously in 17 different dimensions to accommodate species that required various forms of reality to survive. Energy beings floated alongside crystalline entities, while dimensional humans appeared as shifting patterns of light and consciousness. The motion to establish colonies in the Andromeda Galaxy passes, Jin-A announced. Her voice carried across space through quantum consciousness networks that now connected every willing mind in the galaxy. The expedition will launch within the year. This was the new reality of the architect conquered. Where the old Confederation had been limited by conventional physics and species hierarchy, the Concord operated according to principles of shared transcendence and unlimited possibility. Any species that joined gained access to technologies that elevated them far beyond their original limitations. Dr. Wu Jin Seo approached Jin-A as the assembly session ended. As director of the Transcendence Project, he was responsible for humanity's most ambitious undertaking, following the path of the original architects beyond physical existence itself. Chancellor, he said, his form flickering between solid matter and pure consciousness, we've received another message from the architects. Jin-A felt her heartbeat quicken. Contact with the original architects had been growing stronger over the past year, as humanity mastered more of their dimensional technologies. The ancient beings hadn't disappeared. They had simply evolved beyond the need for physical form, existing in higher dimensions while watching the development of younger species. What do they say? She asked. They're pleased with our progress, Wu Jin replied. Apparently, we're the first species to find their hidden infrastructure and actually understand its purpose. Every other species that discovered architect technology either destroyed themselves trying to use it or abandoned it as too dangerous. And us? We're different. We didn't just use their technology, we improved it. Added our own innovations, our own perspective. The architects are impressed. Jin-A nodded, remembering how humanity had taken the ancient dimensional technologies and enhanced them with human creativity and adaptability. Where the architects had created pocket dimensions, humans had built entire universes. Where the architects had manipulated matter and energy, humans had learned to rewrite the fundamental constants of reality itself. Admiral Haiwan Park materialized beside them, her form shifting from the bridge of her dimensional exploration ship. As commander of the interdimensional exploration fleet, she was responsible for humanity's expansion beyond their home galaxy. Chancellor, she reported, we've completed our survey of the local galactic cluster. The architect infrastructure extends far beyond what we originally thought. There are prepared sites in 17 different galaxies, all waiting for inheritors capable of understanding them. This was the ultimate revelation. The empty quarter hadn't been just a testing ground for one species. It was part of a vast network spanning multiple galaxies, all prepared by the architects as they transcended physical existence. They had left behind the tools for cosmic-scale civilization, waiting for inheritors worthy of such responsibility. How many species are ready for intergalactic expansion? Jin-A asked. 47 have completed their transcendence protocols, He-One replied. The Novari have become pure energy beings capable of existing in any environment. The former Confederation slave species have been elevated to full partnership status. Even some of the original Council species have adapted to our new systems. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Species that had been locked in stagnation for millennia suddenly found themselves growing and evolving at unprecedented rates. The key was abandoning the old hierarchical thinking that had limited galactic civilization for so long. What about the holdouts? Jin-A asked. 3 species refused to integrate, He-One admitted. The Kelhari remnants have isolated themselves in a distant star system, still believing they can maintain their old ways. The Threnodi have retreated to shadow dimensions where they think we can't reach them, and there's a group of Vorthak who have sealed themselves in crystal stasis, waiting for us to leave them alone. Ginny felt a moment of sadness for the species that couldn't adapt to the new reality. The Conquered didn't force participation. Any species that wanted to remain in their traditional limitations was free to do so. But they would be left behind as the galaxy moved forward into transcendence. Let them be, she decided. Eventually they may change their minds. If not, They'll serve as a reminder of what we all once were. Dr. Wu Jin cleared his throat, drawing their attention back to more pressing matters. There's something else the architects want to discuss. They've made us an offer. Jin-A raised an eyebrow. What kind of offer? Full transcendence, Wu Jin said quietly. They want to guide humanity beyond physical existence, to join them in the higher dimensions where they now exist. We would become beings of pure consciousness, unlimited by matter or energy or even time itself. The offer was everything humanity had been working toward, the ultimate goal of their technological and evolutionary development, to join the architects as transcendent beings, masters of reality itself, capable of creating and shaping entire universes with pure thought. What's the catch? Admiral Hayawan asked. No catch, Wu Jin replied. But there is a choice to make. We can transcend completely, leaving physical existence behind forever, or we can become bridges, beings who exist in both dimensions, capable of transcendence while maintaining connection to physical reality. Jin-A understood immediately. They want us to become the new guardians. Exactly. The architects are ready to move on to even higher levels of existence, but someone needs to stay behind to guide younger species through their own transcendence. They're offering us the role they've played for millions of years, cosmic gardeners, helping civilizations grow and evolve. The decision would shape not just humanity's future, but the future of the entire cosmos. As transcendent beings, humans could explore realities beyond imagination, create universes with their thoughts, and exist beyond the limitations of time and space. But as bridges between dimensions, they would take responsibility for guiding countless species through their own evolutionary journeys. The Assembly will need to vote. Jin-A said finally. This affects every species in the Concord. But deep down, she already knew what the choice would be. Humanity had spent 2 centuries learning that their greatest strength wasn't in conquering or dominating, but in lifting others up alongside them. They had been exiled as primitives and had returned as teachers of transcendence. 3 days later, the Cosmic Assembly reached its decision. Humanity would accept the role of cosmic guardians, becoming bridges between physical and transcendent existence. They would guide other species through their evolutionary journeys while continuing their own growth toward ultimate transcendence. Admiral Haiwan stood on the bridge of her flagship as the first intergalactic expedition prepared to depart. 17 different species had volunteered for the journey to Andromeda, where they would establish the first conquered colonies in a distant galaxy. All ships report, ready, her navigator announced. Take us out, Haiwan commanded. Space folded around the fleet as they activated their dimensional drives, crossing the vast emptiness between galaxies in minutes rather than millennia. Behind them, the Milky Way continued its transformation under human guidance. Dozens of species growing and evolving beyond their original limitations. Chancellor Jin-A received the final message from the original architects as the expedition departed. It was simple and profound. Welcome to the next stage of cosmic evolution. The universe is yours to nurture. Humanity had come full circle. Exiled from the stars by aliens who saw them as primitives, they had found something greater than revenge or even justice. They had found purpose on a cosmic scale, becoming the gardeners of reality itself. The empty quarter was no longer empty. It was the heart of an empire that spanned dimensions and galaxies. And at its center, humanity stood watch over the endless garden of existence, ensuring that every species capable of growth would have the chance to reach for transcendence. The cosmos had been reshaped, not through conquest but through the patient work of beings who remembered what it was like to struggle and dream, and reach for something greater than themselves. In the end, that was humanity's greatest gift to the universe. Not their technology or their power, but their unwavering belief that everyone deserved the chance to grow.